The question of why the devil fought for the body of Moses is deeply rooted in both Islamic and Judeo-Christian traditions, as well as mystical and philosophical interpretations of good and evil. This event, though not extensively detailed in the Holy Scriptures themselves, is one that has been explored and interpreted in various ways, from theological discussions to mystical poetry and metaphysical thought. The battle for Moses' body involves much more than the simple act of the devil desiring a physical object. It speaks to the deeper spiritual and moral struggles between divine will and rebellious disobedience, between truth and falsehood, and between the eternal fight of good against evil. To understand why the devil would engage in such a fight over Moses' body, we must first reflect on the nature of Moses as a prophet and the significance of his life and death. Moses, or Musa, in Arabic, is one of the most revered and significant figures in all three Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He was not just a leader, but also a lawgiver, a prophet who spoke directly to God, guiding his people through tremendous hardships and delivering them from slavery in Egypt. His life was filled with miracles, divine revelations, and an unwavering commitment to God's will. In Islamic tradition, Moses is considered one of the Ulul Azm prophets, those who were steadfast in their mission and faced immense trials. His strength, leadership, and unwavering faith are qualities that define him as one of the greatest of God's servants. Moses' death is as mysterious as his life. In the Quran, while much is discussed about his mission and trials, his death is not given the same level of detail. However, there are accounts that suggest that Moses' death occurred in a manner that was somewhat hidden from the people, and there are no clear explanations about his burial, which is why some interpretations have focused on the notion that the devil would attempt to take his body. This idea is further expanded upon in certain hadiths, Jewish midrashic writings, and other mystical traditions. The question of why the devil would want Moses' body, specifically, has been a subject of deep spiritual reflection. The fight over Moses' body can be seen as a manifestation of the devil's eternal struggle against God's will. From the very beginning of creation, when Lucifer, then a high-ranking angel, rebelled against God's command to bow to Adam, the devil's arrogance and pride have driven his opposition to God's plans for creation. His refusal to submit to God's will and his desire to corrupt God's creation have made him a symbol of pride, defiance, and rebellion. In the case of Moses, the devil's desire to take his body can be seen as an extension of his rebellion. Moses, as a prophet of God, represented everything the devil despised: humility, submission, and obedience to divine will. If the devil could somehow gain control over Moses' body, it would not only be an act of defiance, but also an attempt to diminish Moses' significance as a prophet of God. Another reason for the devil's desire to claim Moses' body could be tied to his understanding of the body as a vessel of power and influence. In many ancient traditions, the physical body was seen as a potent symbol of a person's power and legacy. The devil, in his warped sense of pride, may have believed that by controlling Moses' physical remains, he could somehow defile or manipulate the sacredness associated with Moses. By denying Moses a proper burial or defiling his remains, the devil could have sought to undermine Moses' legacy and the faith that people placed in his teachings. However, the deeper and more profound interpretation lies in the symbolic nature of the devil's struggle for the body. The devil's desire to take the body of Moses is not just about the physical remains, but also about trying to control the memory and influence of Moses' spiritual teachings. Moses, as a prophet, represented a bridge between humanity and God. He was the one who delivered the law, who freed the Israelites from oppression, and who embodied divine wisdom. His death and the preservation of his body became symbolic of the eternal struggle between good and evil, the divine order and the chaos brought by the devil. In Jewish tradition, there is an intriguing account found in the book of Deuteronomy. It is mentioned that God himself buried Moses in a place known only to him, and no one knows where his grave is located. This detail is significant because it underscores the divine nature of Moses' death and burial. The fact that God took the responsibility for Moses' burial and ensured that no one would know the location of his grave could be interpreted as a safeguard against any attempts to desecrate his body. In this sense, the devil's struggle for Moses' body may represent an effort to challenge or even thwart God's will. If the devil could find Moses' body, it would imply that he could disrupt the divine plan and gain a measure of victory in his ongoing war against God. Moreover, in Islamic traditions, there are accounts where the devil appears to try to claim the body of another prophet, Adam, after his death, which further emphasizes the role of the devil in trying to thwart God's plans. The devil's battle for the bodies of prophets can be viewed as a recurring theme, a symbol of his ultimate inability to understand the power of God's will. Despite his rebellion and his continued efforts to corrupt creation, the devil's attempts to control or destroy the bodies of those closest to God are ultimately futile. This futility highlights the deep irony of the devil's role. While he strives to control, corrupt, and destroy, he is ultimately unable to achieve victory over God's plan. The spiritual significance of the devil fighting for Moses' body can also be seen in the broader context of human existence. The body, in many spiritual and mystical traditions, is not merely a physical entity, but a sacred vessel that reflects the divine soul. By attempting to gain control of Moses' body, the devil would symbolically be attempting to seize the soul of humanity itself. This metaphorical battle over Moses' remains speaks to the broader cosmic struggle between good and evil, between the forces of light and darkness, between divine order and the chaos of rebellion. In many Sufi teachings, the struggle for Moses' body is interpreted as an allegory for the human soul's journey. The body, in this sense, represents the physical self, while the soul represents the divine spark within. The devil's attempts to claim the body of Moses can be seen as a metaphor for the human struggle with the ego, with materialism, and with the forces of darkness that seek to pull the soul away from the divine. Just as Moses' body was preserved by God, the soul of every individual is ultimately under the protection of the divine will, and no force, not even the devil, can truly claim what belongs to God. The cosmic struggle that unfolded over Moses' body is a reflection of the continuous fight that takes place within the hearts of all believers. The forces of darkness, represented by the devil, constantly seek to undermine the light of faith, to destroy the legacy of truth, and to turn people away from the path of righteousness. However, the victory of Moses, like that of all true prophets, lies in his submission to God and his unwavering dedication to the divine will. The devil's defeat in this battle is symbolic of the ultimate triumph of divine order over the forces of chaos and destruction. The story of why the devil fought for Moses' body, though not extensively documented in Scripture, is a powerful allegory for the human condition. It illustrates the eternal struggle between good and evil, between the forces that seek to preserve divine truth and those that strive to distort and destroy it. The devil's attempt to seize Moses' body represents his eternal challenge against God's will, a challenge that is doomed to fail, for the power of God's plan and the sanctity of the divine truth are beyond the reach of evil. The story of Moses, in both his life and death, serves as a timeless reminder that despite the darkness that may attempt to overtake us, divine light, truth, and goodness will always prevail.